Hey everyone, welcome back to the Optimization Toolbox. I'm your host, Jenna Redfield. Today we have a special guest, Ericka Dirk. She is a time management and coach for busy, mostly entrepreneurial women. So I'm so excited to have her on. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, can you tell me a little bit about what a time management coach is? Because when I met you, I was like, I don't know if I've ever met somebody who does that.
Sure. I go through that a lot because people don't really understand. I think in a nutshell, I help you to live the life you want to live, a more intentional life, a life where you feel like you're not being pulled along on autopilot, doing all the things, especially for women, because we just want to do everything. We want to do everything and be everything to everyone, and it's not realistic. And I help people to step away from that and do things more along the lines of what their values are, what fills them up.
That's such a good point because, especially entrepreneurs that are multi passionate, we want to do it all. And that's me. And one of my biggest struggles is I have 80 things I want to do. How do I pick? What are your tips on prioritization? Because that's something I think a lot of us struggle with.
So I'm sure you've heard the phrase, you can do anything, but not everything.
Yes.
And let me start out, let me back up a little
Yeah.
bit. Before I even meet with a client for the first time, I have started implementing a personality assessment. And it's a new and upcoming thing created by a fellow coach of mine, where she takes 4 or 5 different personality assessments and she sort of puts them together. And my client would take this assessment, takes about an hour, and then it spits out a couple of reports to me. And it gives me a full 3D rounded picture of the client, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what motivates them, what are their strengths, what are their challenges, what's their love languages even in there, because it helps to understand what fills them up. And it also gives an idea of strategies for helping the client. This person doesn't really like strict, rigid schedules. That's important to me because I thrive on scheduling and to know to what extent the client is wired that way is going to make a huge difference. And if my program is 6 weeks long and I don't have this assessment to begin with, it could take several sessions before the client and I realize what's going on with trial and error. And this way I know exactly before we even start. And I create a workbook and it has exercises and templates that go and help the client for their specific needs. So we don't have to try and figure out what they need because
Yeah.
the assessment tells me it's like a 30-page assessment.
Oh, wow.
It's DISC, it's Myers-Briggs, it's Enneagram, the love language is one, and I might be missing one. Top 5 strengths, the strengths finder one, maybe. I don't know,
That's
but
cool
it
because
rolls it all into one and it's so helpful.
a lot of people don't know. I think that's a good thing to know. Is there then a type of person? What is the result? Is it really custom or is there an actual answer of you're this type of person? And then that's how you
No,
go.
it's very custom. So I will use the analogy that she uses when she tries to explain what her strategic personality blueprint is. So if you have a green pear, a green apple, and a green pepper, if I asked you to describe all 3 of them with one word, you'd probably say green. But upon biting into each one of them, you would notice one is sweet, one is savory, one is tart. They have completely different underlying personalities. So different things that make them unique. And this personality assessment rolls everything into one and takes everything into account. So it's really very specific to you.
Cool. So then you work with people with that custom profile, figure out, and then what are some of the things that you cover with people? Is it how they like to structure their time? Is it energy levels? I'm just so curious how
Yes,
that.
all of that. I think people generally know themselves what their best time of day is energy wise. That's something that we can definitely pinpoint ourselves. We don't need somebody else to tell us that. But we look at your values And then we look at what your goals are. We look at your priorities. And we start with 1 week, right? So we're starting this week. We're going to plan next week. And what does that look like? But before we actually plan anything, we're going to put in some self-care things. So we do self-care first, and then we plan everything else around it. So we put the most important things in there first. And sometimes those self-care things are driven by what our values are. That way it helps fill us up to where we feel fulfilled and happier and able to carry on. We don't get that burnout as quickly or at all. And then it's really tailored to the person and what they have going on next week and what they need to do. I have them do a brain dump or a mind dump of everything onto paper. What are the things, especially for women, that are endlessly looping through your head? Right? Because we all have stuff. Well, what's that? Well, did I do that? When am I going to do this? I have to go pick up peaches from the grocery store and I have to pick up cat litter and I've got that prescription I have to pick up. I need an oil change. You've got all these things that are going, write it down on paper, gets it out of your head. You can step back and look at it. And then we look at that can we put on next week? What absolutely has to be put on for next week? And for the bigger goals, we break them down into smaller bite-sized chunks and put those on our calendar in manageable tasks. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so what? Okay, I feel like there's so much to that in terms of how you even
There
get to
is.
that point. Are is it based off of is the goal setting like first step, or is it just again like this is something I don't even know? Because I'm trying, for example, I'm trying to write a book. I don't know
Mhm.
when I'm supposed to schedule that in because I have other important things I need to do. So if you were in that situation where it's this is going to take many months, how on earth do I find time or energy or focus to put that in my schedule? So like, that was like a larger goal of mine versus I have a lot of fires that I need to do this week. How do you handle the bigger goals versus the smaller goals?
You have to look at your priorities. I actually have a friend that I've been talking to, and she's writing a book also, but she's also worried about income. And that was one of the things. Well, income is higher than the book right now. Does the book make you money right now? Maybe we maybe put that on the back burner for now, or maybe do that in our free time and not in our work time because it's something that we want to do personally, might not necessarily be a business thing. It depends on what it is, right?
Yeah.
And for her, making money was more important than the book right now. So she wanted to just focus on doing the things that make her money. So then we would list the things. Well, what are the things that you can do that make money that are actually going to bring you money in the door? And then we break down those and put those on her calendar. You're right. There's so much interconnectedness with your priorities and your values and your goals. And what do you do if you have 500 different goals?
Yes.
Well, we start with the top. Can you narrow it down to the top five? And I'm talking big goals, not like paying bills next week or that oil change for your car. That's not really, it's a task more than a goal. But it still takes up time on your calendar, so you have to put it in there. There's overlap for sure. And sometimes I just go with the client in which direction they're going in, whatever direction seems to be the most important to them, what's weighing on their mind the most that day because there really is no right or wrong answer in terms of, well, priorities or goals. What do we do?
It is tough for people like myself who I'm neurodivergent and a lot of my followers are and like get stuck with time blindness, getting sick of things quickly. There's like so many parts to it. And I think that's why a lot of people struggle with the executive functioning side of time management. What are some of
Yes.
the biggest struggles that you see with your clients? What are the things that they're coming to you with? And what are the things that you're helping with?
One of the things that I get told an awful lot is that they'll say, I just don't have enough time in my day. It's like, well, I don't have a magic wand for that. I can't give you more time in your day. What you need really, though, is better mindset and being able to set better boundaries and to
Okay.
honor them.
Mm.
And then also following through
Mm.
because you can plan till you're blue in the face and get it all on your calendar nice and neat and have it look beautiful. But then when you get to the day to do the thing and you don't feel like it, I don't want to do it. And it's that resistance
Yeah.
that for whatever reason your mind is telling you we don't feel like doing that today. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I don't want to do that. And it's that follow through and learning how to push through those feelings, because we do everything because of how we think it'll make us feel. And if we can learn how to harness that and have it work for us, it makes it so much easier.
So let's talk about those things, because I think resistance is the biggest thing for a lot of people when it comes to your right energy. What are some of the tools that you help with that? Or what are the biggest blocks or things that people have? I guess I don't even know the answer.
So are talking about examples of things to help you to get through the resistance,
Well,
or
it's like I think what happens is right, it is based off of feeling. It's based off of I'm not feeling like doing that today, or I procrastinate on purpose to avoid a hard task or to seek pleasure. That's obviously like dopamine seeking. These are all
right,
things that I think about all the time. And it's stuff that I've learned a lot about. A lot of people who are neurodivergent tend to have resistance based off of dopamine issues. Or for me, I'm not really good at planning time because I don't know how long things take to do. And I think one of the things I've been told in the past is just to do some time tracking of how long things work. Again, these are so many topics I'm throwing at you.
yes,
Pick
yes.
whichever direction you want to go, because I'm like, I feel like there's so many thoughts.
That's one of my favorite things, is not knowing how long something is going to take. Because as a life coach and talking about being productive and all of that, I was taught you take it, I don't know, so this is going to depend on what you're doing. Obviously, if you're a brain surgeon or you're something that you have to take this amount of time, but it takes exactly as long as you give it. So if I have an hour to create that Instagram post, I'm going to take the whole hour. If I only have 15 minutes to do it, I'm going to get it done in 15 minutes. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not. Nothing should ever be perfect, though. You can't, what's perfect. And that's a whole other rabbit hole, perfectionism, right? But trying to get things done in a certain amount of time. So there's a word for that, and I can't
Yeah,
even, or
no,
a name for that, and I
yes,
can't
I
think
know
of
there
it.
is a name. It's like it starts with a P, and I don't remember the name. I'm gonna look
Yeah,
it.
time expands for your task
Yeah,
expands for the time that you give it. So
yeah.
if you give yourself an hour to, I don't know, do whatever, and it doesn't take you that
Parkinson
long.
law. That's what it
There
is.
you go. Yes,
Yeah.
that's it exactly. So and that's sort of getting to know yourself too.
Mm.
Where it's hard is when you're doing new things that you've never done before and you don't know how long it's going to take you, because you have to figure out the tech part of it first, or you have to figure out, and that's where you have to give your best guess and put that on there. And then you make notes for next time, mental notes or physical notes, whatever. And that only took me 5 minutes. I don't need to plan a half an hour for that. But we know ourselves more or less when it comes to the regular, everyday, mundane type things that we do. We know how long those things should take us. It shouldn't take me 2 hours to clean my bathroom.
Depends on
So,
how deep you go.
right,
But
that's
yeah.
true. On a normal day, on a
Well,
normal,
I think that's the other thing too, is it's avoidance. For me, that's one of my biggest struggles is I know I need to do it, but I would rather do this thing instead. So it's almost like it's not a time management issue, it's more of a self-control issue. And I'm assuming that's something that you work with too.
yes, because it's a procrastination thing and you're putting it off because it's somewhat painful for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have it scheduled to do it on Monday. And each day you think about it, I should do it, I should do it. Monday and then Tuesday and Wednesday, and you're going through it all, and then you just do it on Friday. And it took you 15 minutes. You could have just done it on Monday
Yeah.
in 15 minutes, and you would have gained all of that time or that anxiety back that you had from cycling through it all week long, going, should I do it now? Should I do it now? I could do it after my meeting, or I could do it back when I get back from the grocery store, or I could do it, but I don't really want to do it. And you're arguing with yourself, right?
Yes. This happens to me all the time. One of the tools I learned is something called scary hour. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I've not heard of that. I gotta write
Okay.
that down.
So basically, you have an hour every week. It's usually at the beginning of the week where it's like it's this is my scary hour for the week, where it's all the stuff you don't want to do that's going to take less than 15 to 20 minutes and you can do a bunch of them. So it's like something, whether it's paying a bill or calling somebody that you don't want to call, a
Right.
maintenance person, or just all this stuff. Just open, for me, I hate opening my mail. I know that sounds weird, but I'll like let it sit for like a week, and I'll just won't, because I know it's like a bill or something, and I'm like, I don't want to open that
Right.
right away. But it's like I don't know. So it's just like I just don't ever.
We all have our triggers of things
Yeah.
that just really we don't want to do. And I like that. On Monday, just do it because just get it out of the way and do it, and the rest of the week is downhill.
And I think that having tools and hacks like that are so important to just get over the hump of
Mhm.
avoidance. And for you, what are some of the other tools that you recommend, or what are some strategies that you teach people?
Well, there's numerous ones. I do like the tools that I have for, well, I guess it's sort of along the same lines, but a lot of things that help us with our avoidance are distractions, right?
Mhm.
And I would say 80 to 90% of the distractions that we have are in our head.
Mhm.
Only 10 to 20% of them are outside of our body, that are outside of our control. If we want to be distracted, we're going to let ourselves be distracted. We don't want to do what we're doing. We want to avoid what we're doing. It's painful. I'd rather be scrolling on my phone. I'd rather get that instant dopamine hit over here instead of doing that over there. So there's ways around that in terms of sort of tricking yourself, giving yourself rewards or even punishments if you do or don't do what you said you were going to do. I call them anchors. In the book Indistractable, which is a very good book, near the author talks about them as pacts,
Yeah.
effort pacts and identity pacts,
Mhm.
and what's the other one? Where you're setting yourself up to succeed. One of the things that I like to do, or that I have done, is one of my favorite things, is on my iPhone, I've put all of my socials in one icon and it's all the way to the right. So when I tap my phone screen and it opens up, I don't see any of those notifications. I see my email down at the bottom, but that's
Yeah.
it. And if I want to go to Instagram or Facebook or any of those, I have to scroll over. And it's just a couple of seconds and a few finger taps, but it's just enough effort to keep me from doing it. And it doesn't pop up immediately on my screen when I open my phone to
Yeah.
distract me immediately.
There's a lot of great tools like that. Like, one thing I've heard is to make your phone black and white.
Yes, I've heard that too.
So there's lots
Yeah.
of ways. I think that's a big struggle a lot of people have. I went to a thing last week and we were talking about some of the biggest habits we want to change, and doom scrolling was like number one that I kept hearing. And
It's
it's
so
true.
addictive.
It's so I am very addicted to my phone. It's actually a problem, and I laugh about it, but it's like, no, of all the addictions I have, it's probably the one I'm the most addicted to, and it's like it does affect my time and my ability to focus, and it's something that I am trying to work. I actually have a physical lockbox for my phone that I put it in till so that I literally, because I can't, even if I just turn on the controls, it still does, it's not effective for me.
That
That
would be
it's
an
just,
effort pact or an effort anchor
yeah.
as well, because you're putting it away and you could go get the key. Yeah, you could open it up, but that's extra work and
This
I'm
one
not going
does
to do
not
it.
open. It's a timer, so it unless you
Oh, well,
break
even
it,
better.
it does not have a key. So it's like if as long as the timer's on, it will not open. So I gotta wait an hour.
Wow.
So it's very. But then I have my phone and my iPad and my computer, so I have to make sure all of those are locked or I don't know put away. But it's like
Well,
for me to just
and you
not.
can put timers on them. I
Yes,
like those
yes,
because it doesn't necessarily stop me from using it, but it at least gives me a reminder
yeah.
because I think I have mine set for an hour for each
Mhm.
one. And then it's like, well, gosh, has it been an hour already that I've been on Facebook today? I'm going to get off right now because I can't have that.
Yeah.
But you also have to listen to yourself. And if you're not going to listen, you're just going to scroll past it.
But I think it's also getting into the mindset of, well, if I'm not distracted, then what am I doing with my time? Because
Right.
even then, sometimes it's hard for me to focus because I'm like thinking about other things or I don't even know what to do next. Because that's more of my struggle is like, what should I be doing right now? As an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years and I still struggle with this where I'm like, what is the best use of my time today? Because I could do 8 different things and I never know which is the priority or because it's all of them can move the ball forward. How do I pick?
Right. Right. Well, so with my clients, my thing is we're planning this week and we're going to plan everything for this week. And the
Gotcha.
reason we do that is because that uses our prefrontal cortex that is logical and forward looking, and it looks at our goals and how we get to our goals and all the things that for planning. If we wait and do it in the moment, then we're using our primitive brain, which I don't know if you've ever heard of the motivational triad, but our primitive brain wants to always keep us safe, conserve energy, and seek pleasure. Those three things. We're wired that way as human beings for those things, which is why in the moment, sitting on the couch feels much more enjoyable than going to the gym. Or we're conserving energy and we're getting pleasure at the same time. Win. So we try to stay away from being reactive and try to do more proactive and use our calendar as a second brain because we're putting everything on our calendar. Everything. I'm going to Target and I'm picking up these 4 things. And on the way, I'm going to stop at the grocery store and then the post office. And I'm going to do all these things in one, which is batching your work. And you're doing the same types of things all at once, getting it done. And you plan for that. Planning is everything. And the more you can do it, I think the better. You can plan so many different things. You can even plan your thoughts. The next time I drop something and make a mess, I'm going to plan on telling myself that that's okay, that I'm not an idiot, that your self-talk, you can plan to talk better to yourself. You can plan to have better boundaries. You can plan what you're going to say to somebody for setting that boundary or whatever. There's so many options there.
How far in advance do you recommend to plan? Because I know you said a week apart, but is that typical or do people plan months, years?
I guess it's up to you. And there are some things like our dentist appointments that we generally can't leave the place until we schedule the next one 6 months from now, right? So there are always going to be things that are on your calendar that are already there. Appointments, we made this appointment today, or I made the appointment 3 weeks ago. So there's some of it's going to get pushed out, or you can look at that list from your brain dump that you have on your piece of paper and you can say, well, these things I can do next week and these I can push out a couple of weeks. And the further out you go, that's great because then it's already done. But then I would say the week before you get there, you're always looking at 1 week ahead. You can still move those things around if you need to make room for the things that might be now more of a priority than that was back then.
I feel like I have like 3 follow-up questions to that. First, do you put on the calendar the time to plan?
Yes.
So how long does that take?
So what I have clients do is I usually have them take an hour, and this is what I do as well. I take an hour on Friday because Friday is the end of my week. I take an hour to look back at everything that worked this week down to, did I do that or did I not do it? Did I skip it? Did I run out of time? Did something go over? Did something happen? And I make mental notes about that. Or if I didn't get something done, then I push it to next week so that it gets done. And then I spend time doing that brain dump where I get everything out of my head and put it on the calendar for next week. I take an hour. I try to take an hour. Sometimes it goes over, sometimes it's a little less. But that serves a couple of purposes. It helps you to hit the ground running on Monday. And then it also really helps you to have a better weekend because you're not stressing about what you did or didn't do this past week and when are you going to finish it. And then it also helps you know that you have a plan for next week and you don't have what some people call the Sunday scaries, where it's Sunday afternoon and you're thinking of all the things you have to do tomorrow. Well, you've already got it planned out. There's no need to worry about it. There's no need to keep going over it and over it in your head. It's on your calendar.
I love that because I use that with calendarizing your to-do list for sure. Do you have any tips on how to batch or when to do things at certain times of the week? I don't know if it is depend on the person, but like for me, I make all my content on Mondays because it goes out on Tuesdays. And I like to be creative more at the beginning of the week because I'm kind of coming in from the weekend versus client work I do Wednesdays or Fridays, or I'll record this podcast on Friday. So it's like, how do you help people figure out what days of the week to do certain tasks?
I think that's also where it's helpful to have it on a piece of paper because you can sort of categorize them. I'm kind of anal retentive with color coding and that sort of thing.
Me too. I love it. Me too.
So a lot of times I'll write it down on a sheet, then I go back with a highlighter and it's like the blue things I can do all together, or the yellow things all have to do with clients. So they need to be at this time, or it's really up to the person and we work together to figure that out. And some of it is just trial and error. I usually post on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I do a time tip Tuesday So I usually create all of those the week before and then schedule them for Tuesday and Thursday. But then I also do a live on Fridays and I try to post about those. And I have a wellness fair coming up soon. So I'm posting about that. So,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's different every week. Depending on, I have a doctor's appointment on this day,
Mm.
or I have family coming from out of town on this day, and it throws your routine off a little bit.
What happens if other people, for example, you have a client call, then they have to cancel or move and it changes your week? How do you deal with other things that are out of your control? That happens to me all the time where it's like, I was supposed to have a meeting with this person, then they moved it. And it's like, well, that messes up all of my plan for the week because then I have to move it to a time when maybe I was going to do something. It's like, how do you deal
Sure.
with those inevitable blocks that come up around?
That's planning for the unexpected,
Mm.
right? And that is essentially leaving time in your calendar, leaving buffer time in
Mm.
your calendar. So
Okay.
you're not scheduling things back to back. That's not good for you anyway. You need transition time. You need time to switch gears. And if something falls through and you need to move something around, you can do that. I try to tell people to stick to their calendar as best as they possibly can. Because another thing is an emergency. If you have kids and you have something, what is your definition of an emergency?
Mm.
They need a cookie? No. I'm
Right.
not going to drop. Well, I guess it depends on a lot of things, but
Yeah.
for me, that wouldn't be, I just want a snack or something. I'd be like, well, I'll go grab a snack. Or what is big enough of a thing to make me rearrange my schedule, to stop what
Mm.
I'm doing and rearrange my schedule? That's another thing you can plan ahead of time. What constitutes an emergency? Then they don't happen very often, but things do pop up where somebody wants to go out for lunch or somebody cancels their appointment, or you have to stick to your guns the best you can. But if they cancel, that's beyond your control. And if you have times and open spaces in your schedule, you can slip them in there. And then if you don't fill those times in, then you take a break or you do something else that's on your list. Sometimes I have people that do not want this rigid, strict schedule. So
Yeah.
then we say, well, what are the top 3 things that need to get done today?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter when they get done, they just have to get done today. Because Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday depend on me getting it done on Monday,
Mhm.
especially for some of the things that you do where it's content and you have to create it and you can't post it if it's not created. So there's a natural progression of things that have to happen, and we try to look at that too when we're planning, and your energy and all the things.
There's so many factors, which is why I think it can be overwhelming for people,
Yes.
especially if maybe they're a new entrepreneur and they've never had to structure their time, or they are doing multiple projects at once. There's so much to it that I have so much intention. And it's like the follow through. You're right. That's the struggle. But
Well, an entrepreneur, well, especially for somebody like me too, because I came from the corporate world
mm,
where structure is imposed upon you.
I never had that. So I've never had the
So,
structure.
so
Yeah.
you don't have to relearn.
No, but I
You
also
can,
don't know what I should be doing because I've never had
right.
it
So you
like
have your own
imposed
set
on
of
me. Yeah,
challenges.
for sure.
So to unwire your brain to having somebody else's structure versus imposing it on yourself is huge. It's different, right? And for you learning from scratch how
Yeah.
to impose some structure on you when you're not really sure with where you're going, what you should be doing, those types of things. It's a different challenge, but still a challenge.
Is there, I know we only have a few minutes left. Is there any other tips or tools or books or resources that you would recommend to the people listening that have really made a huge impact for you and your clients?
One of my favorite books as a woman is Drop the Ball
Oh, what
by
is that about?
Tiffany Dufu. And she talks about how, as women, we need to let go of the ball. We need to drop the ball so people can help us.
Mm.
And this speaks directly to being able to delegate, because if you
Mm.
can't let it go, you can't delegate. And delegating is huge when it comes to time management because you can delegate the smaller things and leave the larger things for yourself, or vice versa. Whatever it is that you need to delegate, wherever your time needs to be best spent right now, delegate everything else. And if you can't let go, you can't delegate. So I love the book because she specifically speaks about women and marriages with husbands and wives and how we need to let go in order for them to help us. And a lot of times as women, we don't like to ask for help or we don't know how to ask for help. or we don't think that they can help. We don't, because they've never helped before. So how do they know what to do? Right. Well, they'll figure it out.
That's good. I've never heard of that book, so I'm excited to look.
It's a great book. I actually got to listen to her speak and she was wonderful.
I always
And
love have those
she
connections.
talks about how her and her husband managed their household when he was in the Middle East and she was in New York. Together, they managed everything together from opposite sides of the world. And it's just very inspiring.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how do people connect with you? How do you work with clients? How people find you online?
Well, website is mindfultimecoaching.com. It's all one word, mindfultimecoaching.com. Or you can email me at Ericka, Erica, at mindfultimecoaching.com.
And you said you had like a sick program. Is that
I do
what?
have a 6 week program at the moment.
Okay.
Um, and I like to do it over Zoom for an hour, excuse me. And I like to do it every other week. So it gives them time to things that we're learning about and things to try.
Yeah, and you give them like homework.
Homework, I have a workbook.
Okay.
It's a workbook based off of their personality assessment. So it's tailored to them.
And is that personality assessment included in that program? Okay, gotcha. Awesome. I may have to do that at some point because it's like this is one of my big struggles. So it's like I like to learn about what options there are, and also I'm sure people listening are curious as well because it's work with like a coach, but I'm also like I know the business stuff. It's more of this stuff that I'm like you know
Of everything that we do is our mindset, and we
yeah
get trapped in our head, and it really controls us as to what we think we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah, and also just knowing how to track it. I think that's the biggest thing for me is planning and tracking are for mine because it's like I don't ever want to look at the answers. It's like embarrassed by the amount of
Right.
time I wasted this month or whatever, and it's like, oh,
Yes.
I need
Yes.
to change that. But awesome. Well,
We
thank you
do
so much.
have, yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome for having me. It was a great honor to be here.
Yeah, it was great. We met in person a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I was like, oh, I have to have you on the podcast. But yeah, any words or any last tips or anything to?
Um, just that you have more control than you think you do. And it all comes down to your thoughts and your feelings, and you can control those. And once you figure out how to control those, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And I like to help people with that.
Awesome. Well, thanks to everyone for listening. We'll have all of Erica's links in the show notes, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.